Destructive storms like Hurricane Helene is one of the reasons that September is National Preparedness Month.
And joining us this morning to talk about keeping your family safe during natural disasters is Chief Robert Graham with the Charlotte Fire Department. He specializes in emergency management. Chief, good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Good morning. I was listening to the traffic report, and it might be a disaster this morning, it sounded like.
I think it might qualify as a disaster. I think you're right there. You know, and speaking of, let's start broadly. When we say natural disaster, traffic aside, what are we talking about there? What all falls under that category?
Well, when we talk about disasters, we talk about all disasters. So whether it's human-made or natural. And so a disaster or a major emergency is anything that stretches our resources, but also tends to cause disruption in our community. And we have a lot of those if you think about it. Some of them are very short-lived. It might be a severe thunderstorm in the Charlotte region or localized flooding. But then we also have Hurricane Hugo that hit in 1989, or we have something like the pipeline shutdown, Colonial Pipeline shutdown that can cause problems or disruptions. And so anything that disrupts normal life is really when emergency management kicks in, and our job is to coordinate all the resources within our community and work with the state and federal officials.
So, Chief, there are people who are watching this and they are saying, you know, I've lived in this area all my life. I mean, I remember Hurricane Hugo as a little girl. I've seen the thunderstorms, I've seen the flooding. What do you say to those people? What do they need to do to be prepared for a natural disaster?
Well, humans are very resilient, and we're certainly resilient as Americans. And so we tend to handle something and move on. But we also tend to think it'll never happen to us. And I'm from Hendersonville, North Carolina, is where I was born and raised. And we've seen a number of storms, and Helene did major devastation in the mountains. Hugo did significant devastation in Charlotte. It was a Category 1 when it came through. And if it has happened in the past, there is a 100% chance it will happen in the future. We just don't know when. And so things that catch us off guard are the things that are really the largest things that we're worried about. We just had our 20th anniversary of Katrina, and I was in Mississippi for Katrina. And the folks down there, of course, the number one thing is they didn't have water, they needed food. They were safety and security was an issue down there, and really as we worked to evacuate them. And so what we want people to do is to be prepared and have a plan, but don't always rely on the government, because the government is going to be stretched very thin as far as resources, and it takes us time to get resources into place to handle a major disaster like that. And Helene was a good example of that. My family was without power for 14 days. So if you imagine our folks here in Mecklenburg County without power for 14 days, that would be a major disruption. When Hugo happened in 1989, the city of Charlotte was probably around 430,000 people. Today, we're pushing 1 million people. And so a lot of people here don't remember that and don't really understand the threats or the risks. In a typical year, we might have 1 or 2 tropical systems that can affect Charlotte. If you remember, Florence was a major storm, and we watched it for over a week, and it did significant damage throughout North Carolina, not necessarily here in Charlotte. However, that same year we had Hurricane Michael, and it did major damage inside the city of Charlotte, but it was a very short-lived storm. So it hit in the morning, and by 6 o'clock we were watching the evening news, but we were stretched thin as far as our resources here in Charlotte.
You say folks can't just rely on government and government alone, right, which we've seen, but also, I'm sure you want to reassure people, what do officers like yours, when it comes to emergency management, what do you all do to prepare for these natural disasters?
Oh, absolutely. So we communicate, and we communicate all the time with everybody. And so our job in emergency management is basically we cut all the organizational charts and all the bureaucracy of government, the city and the county, and we bring key decision makers here to the Emergency Operations Center to act quickly to bring our resources to bear. But we also push information as if we can see something that's going to affect Charlotte in the near future, we're pushing out that information, having those meetings, having the briefings, and making sure that all of our government is ready to respond.
So then I would ask, what are the steps that people need to take to contact your offices to make sure that they are staying informed about what is actually going on? Obviously, it can be overwhelming for both you guys as well as for all of us who are being affected by these storms.
Right. So as I said before, our communications, we over communicate. And so we are on all platforms. We're on all social media platforms. We push out press releases. We meet with our press. But we also encourage people to sign up for SHARMEC alerts at sharmecalerts.org. And there's two types of this. So one is a wireless emergency alert, so we can push to everybody's phones in the event of a major emergency. But SHARMEC alerts, it allows you to sign up for notifications that you're opting into to get from Charlotte Mecklenburg Emergency Management, but also from the National Weather Service. So you can get weather updates from National Weather Service on your phones. We want people to stay informed. We want you to have at least 3 different ways of getting information. But most importantly, I always cover this, make sure that your friends and family are aware of significant events that are getting ready to occur. So if we have major weather that's getting ready to push into Charlotte, we want people to know that. And we want, not only do we want you to know it, but we want your parents to know it, we want your children to know it, and we want your neighbors to know it. And after a storm, we want to make sure that we are checking on the neighbors, because we are a community and we want to make sure that we're taking care of our own neighbors. But be prepared, make your emergency kit. And emergency kits come in a lot of different ways, but start to have non-perishable items such as bottled water, food, etc., a light source, extra medication. There's a whole long list that you can get from FEMA's website or from other websites, to be honest, and start to build that and put that aside so that you're not a burden on the emergency services. 1 million people is a lot of folks to take care of, and obviously it takes time to do that. So we're coming. It's just that we want to make sure that if you can take care of yourself first, that you're able to do that, and most importantly, that you're prepared to take care of your neighbors. And so really that's what we're pushing.
Yeah, we see that time and time again. Neighbors helping neighbors is perhaps the strongest thing that can happen.
Yeah.
All of this very timely information as we enter the peak of hurricane season, and of course as we move towards the anniversary of Hurricane Helene. All right, Chief Robert Graham. Chief, thanks for coming on.
Thanks
we appreciate
so much.
it.
Yeah.